G'day guys, Roo here. Have you ever wondered how on earth an Aussie becomes a Warriors fan? Well, stay tuned to find out. Morning guys, well thanks for joining me on my morning walk. Well today I thought I would take you all the way back to the start of my rugby league journey and how I got into footy, and then following on from that, how I got into the Warriors. So I was originally born in the UK to a Scottish father and Australian mother, but I've always been an Australian citizen since birth, and at the age of 5 I moved back to Australia, to Brisbane where my mum's from. And that's pretty much where I've lived ever since, and that's where I grew up. As a young kid, I was never that interested in sports. I was more interested in arts and drawing and writing and that kind of thing. But in grade 7, when I was about 12, I had an American mate, and he started collecting rugby league cards. And you know, when you're at that age, you kind of do what your mates do, and he goes, "Oh, you should start collecting these cards." So I did, and I did it just as a hobby, but then through that I got into rugby league, and I started watching it with my dad and Friday night footy every night, and started to really enjoy it. And then by default, my favourite team became the Brisbane Broncos, because I'm from Brisbane. So it was a great time to be into the Broncos. Obviously a couple of premierships in 92 and 93, and what a stacked team they had back then. They had most of the Queensland State of Origin side and a lot of the Australian teams, so they were an awesome side. My favourite player back then was the Pearl, Steve Renouf, because he was just an awesome player, scored some unreal tries, and so that's how I got into footy. And fast forward to, well, in 1993 actually, they announced there's going to be 4 new teams added to the rugby league competition in 95. So obviously the Crushers, the Cowboys, the Western Reds and the Warriors from Auckland. To be honest with you, I was probably more excited about the Crushers coming into the competition because being from Brisbane, another team from Brisbane to go and watch and support. Anyway, so fast forward to March 10, 1995, and my Brisbane Broncos, their first game of the season, was up against this new mob from New Zealand called the Warriors. And as I said, I hadn't given the Warriors a second thought at all. Like, they were a team from New Zealand. It didn't really appeal to me at all. And anyway, I remember turning on the TV and watching all the pre-game stuff that they had out there at was Ericsson Stadium at the time, and all the military stuff. And then I'll never forget the atmosphere and just how intense it was. And so the Broncos obviously ran out in the field first, and then following that, the stadium just absolutely lit up when Dean Bell led the Warriors out onto the ground for the very first time. I'll never forget the flames and just the wave of emotion from the crowd, and just remember the enormity of the occasion, and just thinking, this is amazing. Like, I've never seen anything like this before, and I'd only been watching rugby league for a couple of years. So so that was something that really captured my attention. Obviously we all know how the game went, and the team was just chock full of Polynesian players. I've never really seen that, because back then in the early to mid 90s there wasn't anywhere near as many Polynesian players in the NRL as there is now, and that really appealed to me. And I'll tell you another thing that I really loved was the jerseys. So obviously we wore the blue, red and green and white jerseys, and I just loved that. That added to the sensory overload. It was the flash of colour, the exuberant style of play, because as everyone famously remembers, the Warriors were leading 22 points to 10 not long after half time. I was just sitting there thinking, what have we done? We've run into this mob, and they seemed unstoppable at the time. And famously, it was only a bit of Alfie Langer magic that got the Broncos over the line that night. But I just remember just being blown away by this new team, and there was something really different and exciting about them, and it really captured my imagination. And I said, you know what? This team's different. This team's exciting. This team has potential. I said, you know, I've only been supporting rugby league for a couple of years. I think I'll make this new mob my team. So I jumped on board. So when people say, "I see you're a day one Warriors fan," it's not entirely true, because that first game I came into March 10, 1995 as a Broncos fan. But I guess you could call me a day two Warriors fan. But I wouldn't change anything. I just absolutely love the team. I've loved the journey. I love the history of the club. I love everything about it. And yeah, as I said, I would not change a thing. And so there you go. So if you've ever wondered how an Australian can support the Warriors, well, that's how. So guys, what are your memories of that first game in 1995, and who were some of your favourite players from the 1995 season? I instantly loved big Tony Tatupu with that barnstorming try right before half-time, and Tia Ropati, who scored just after half-time as well. They were a couple of my favourite players from 95. Also Sean Hoppy, a guy the previous year I used to hate because he used to terrorise the Brisbane Broncos when he was playing for North Sydney. So what are your memories of 95? Who were your favourite players? Make sure you comment below and join in the conversation. Cheers guys, appreciate you joining me on my morning walk and talking footy, which is something that I love doing. So I'm going to keep doing it, and stay tuned for some more Roo Remembers videos. Thanks guys, cheers.